Welcome back to the channel. Hi, I'm Andre, if you're new here. And in today's video, I want to talk a little bit about budget guitars. And in the context, mainly about this Harley Benton guitar I have here and do a review of that guitar. So that's the main premise of this video, but also I'm going to talk a little about budget guitars in general and my thoughts on them as someone who has more high-end guitars, whether they're worth buying if you're not a beginner or an entry-level player. So why did I get this guitar? If you happen to have seen one of my previous videos about one of my custom guitars that I have, I'll link it up in the corner here. All the guitars that I own, besides my original classical guitar that I have tremolo systems on them. I just love tremolo systems. Again, the players I gravitated to when I became interested in guitar and when I started guitar all played guitars with tremolo systems, mostly Floyd's and similar. So I wasn't really enamored with people like Slash, Jimmy Page, and others that played Les Pauls or guitars in general without tremolo system with like this. This is a two-pneumatic bridge and so forth. So that didn't really interest me. But over the past few years, I kind of started thinking, and I started seeing, in generally on YouTube, guitar YouTube videos about people reviewing, a lot of larger YouTubers reviewing Harley Benton's, Jet guitars, Earth guitars, and other budget brands that were coming up in specifically in the past 5 years, I think. And I thought I became interested maybe to try, because many of those reviews talk about how excellent they are, especially for the money. And that, but usually, when you, at least from my perspective, is that budget guitars are usually something that is geared towards a beginner or an entry-level player that is buying his first or second guitar, and then you gradually grow out of that guitar, then you buy something better or something more that has higher quality again. But I started again, I bought this guitar with my own money last year around December, so I have had this roughly a year now. So the reason why I basically bought it was that I've like I said before, I saw all those reviews and I thought, and I was kind of starting to crave a guitar that didn't have a trem, like a two-pneumatic bridge or a bridge like a Tele bridge, something that if I want to go drop D, I don't have to think about anything, and changing strings is easy and all that stuff also. And also more likely that you can do all those funny bends, like this, something like that. That's the Tele bends, the country lick bends, and all that fun stuff. Without everything going out too, because if you have a floating bridge, the bridge will react to the minute you bend upwards, the bridge and the springs will react to that, and everything goes a little bit out of tune. So you can't really do double stop bends or play something like Money for Nothing probably, and all those things from Dire Straits. So I started to think about, okay, maybe it's worth looking around, maybe trying that, because again, this here is a 2,500 kroner guitar. What I paid, I think that's the price, which is roughly again 300 euros, a little less. It's a little more again with the dollar. But I wasn't quite sure what I wanted. I was gravitating between a Tele or something Gibson style, and this here got released last year, I think, around that. This is the Harley Benton SC Custom 3. So this is the version 3. Again, lefty version of it. And it's a matte finish. I think it's called Vintage Matte Black. So I was contemplating that, and then I finally decided that there in, I think, November, December of 2025 last year, that, you know what, let's try it. Let's just try it again, because Harley Benton is, if you don't know, is owned by Thomann. And so this is their in-house brand, and they have a pretty good return policy. So if you have, 30 days to try a guitar or any gear here, and then you can send it back with no questions asked. So I thought, maybe if I don't like the guitar, then send it back. So I thought, okay. So I got it, and I've in general been very, very happy with this guitar, especially for the money. And again, I only play at home. I don't gig or anything. For its money, it has been really, really a nice buy, and especially with the quality I think my guitar has. Or there's again, when you start to buy these budget brands, at least my experience back in the 90s. Guitars that were made back in the 90s from China, Indonesia, even Korea back in the early 90s, the quality of things were sometimes a bit sketchy. The hardware wasn't very good in terms of durability of the metal and such here, but this here has really, I can say that now 30 years later, that a $200-300 guitar, at least here with the Harley Benton I have, is not the same as a $200-300 guitar of a 90s similar guitar and everything. This here feels much more like a quality instrument that you can rely on. So the general specs, I'll show them also here on the screen right now, is that this is a set neck guitar, like it is a Gibson style guitar. The wood is Meranti, which is usually called Philippine mahogany, but that name is a bit misleading because it's not in the same family as mahogany, but it has some of the similar properties of mahogany and look. That it's easy to machine and everything, though it isn't as dense as mahogany. Plus, it has the downside that it isn't very well suited for outside uses unless it's been treated, painted, and something like that. But it's again, it is a local wood to the area of Indonesia, Philippines, and such. And since this guitar is produced in Indonesia for Harley Benton, it is, of course, done because it's costly for them. So, and plus I don't know if you can hear it, this is also a semi-hollow guitar, or it's been also, so the weight of it is bad. You are not talking about something like a typical Epiphone Gibson guitar, plus it isn't as thick as the standard Gibson Epiphones. So that, again, matte finish with binding, I think it's called ivory binding, and 22 frets. The fretboard is something that really surprised me. This is rosewood. Usually when on these budget guitars, they use some other similar wood like that, but this is rosewood. Plus it has what they call blacksmith, I think it was called, stainless steel fret. That's the biggest surprise for me, was that this guitar at this price point offered they offered stainless steel frets. That was really what won me over, because again, this is a little more durability with the frets, and again, compared to nickel frets. Doesn't mean it's really better. Some people prefer nickel frets in compare because they don't like that stainless steel fret maybe pop a little bit more in terms of tone, but this is again preferences at the end. Two standard pickups, humbuckers. These are the Tesla in-house brand Alnico 5 pickups, freeway switch. And this isn't the typical, of course, Gibson layout. This is the more layout you see on the LTDs by ESP and others, or Schecter. This that you have two volumes, one for each pickup, and then a common, a shared tone. What do you call it now? A tone knob. And as you can hear, this has push-pull. That's also again a nice feature to have on a budget band, so you can split the coils. I will say that when I will do a demonstration, like I always do, that when you split, it isn't as pronounced as it could be, but this is again pickups, and pickups can always be changed. And this is again also one of the reasons why I chose it, is that the two-pneumatic bridge and everything, this is Wilkinson hardware. So you are not getting really the lowest grade of the hardware. You're getting these, and then these are Harley Benton's own tuners or branded tuners. But in general, those feel also very sturdy and very smooth when you use them. They don't feel cheap compared to some of the other tuners I have on my other guitars. In terms of quality, they feel very nice. Again, graphite nut. Again, also very nice, and in general, the fit and finish of it, on this guitar is that I'm surprised that I didn't see any marks or spots or anything where it wasn't polished properly, or there is some leftover compound or whatever. This is really surprised at this price point again, that that the quality is really there, and that again, really just for me personally, a out of the box experience. This doesn't feel like a $300 guitar. And the reason probably is that because this is an in-house brand by Harley Benton, there's no middleman, hence they can subsidize. And I know they subsidize their guitars. Hence this, in terms, if this was sold by another brand that didn't have their own distribution and everything like Thomann does, I think this guitar would probably lie around $500 or $600 or euros instead, in terms of what you get with it, and also the quality of the components. One of the also nice thing is that you can see I bought along with it a Harley Benton strap, cheapest straps, because I didn't have an additional one. But what came with it is there is locking straps that came with it. That really surprised me that this was there, and those feel sturdy too. Again, I'm not used to taking off. It just sits on. I don't have to worry it. Everything. You back in the 90s, you wouldn't get all this stuff with a $200-300 guitar. And also the great thing about it, it is relatively perfectly balanced. There's no neck dive or anything. So this is all in all an absolutely great guitar for the money. So do I have any complaints about it? Well, not really complaints. I will still say, and this is not a critique, but at least me, when I see a lot of those reviews on YouTube where they compare this guitar to like a $1,000 guitar and a $2,000 or $3,000 Gibson or whatever, is that to me, even though I can only say really, really good things about it, after having had this guitar for almost a year or roughly 10 months now, it still feels like a cheap guitar. And I explained why now why. One of the things that, again, shocked me about it is the weight in general. This is clearly the lightest guitar I have. It is much lighter than any of my other guitars, partly because it's hollowed out, as you can hear. And I'm not used to the matte finish, so that for some reason for me, and this is not a complaint, but just for me, the matte finish makes it feel a bit cheap. Also, it doesn't mean anything, of course, in terms of the guitar itself and its build quality, but just I, for some reason, associate this matte finish being a little cheaper. So this is just a kind of weird thing with me here. That's kind of the association I made with it. The other thing I would say, even though it has stainless steel threads, what they call blacksmith stainless steel threads, you can tell that the grade of stainless steel isn't the highest. It's not bad or anything like that, but you can tell something about the threads. Partly they weren't polished, and I didn't expect they would be again. But after playing it for a year and having putting new strings on it and polishing it up, the threads are fine. They were just a bit scratchy in the beginning, but playing it and all that fixed that or alleviated that. But again, the fretwork on it is really, really nice. There are no sharp edges or anything. There isn't really any, if I look what I can see with the eyes that I have, no really bad, again, a guitar on this price point is that they are rounded relatively nicely off here and there. And also, again, comfort of it. Again, you have, I will make some close up, and there are nice modern contours to it also as well. So you have a tummy cut and also a cut for upper fret access, and then of course one thing, there's a relatively nice volute around here where we know the Gibsons are a little prone to break, and you have a little shallower angle. You don't have the 17 degrees. I think this is probably more in the, I think this is 14 or 11. I think it's 14 degrees angle. And the radius of the fretboard, if I remember correctly, is 14 inches. And it's, of course, a standard Gibson scale, 24 3/4 and everything. So in all, it is a great guitar, really great guitar for the money. Would I say, is this a guitar for a beginner? Yes, I would say, if you are or a parent that's willing to spend this much on a guitar. Usually I think most people on their first guitars are usually something in the range of $100 to $200 or euros. Those are really usually what beginner guitars are for people. 300 is maybe a bit excessive, but I think spending that extra money, in case you are looking for a Les Paul style guitar, you are getting a guitar that would last for the player in the end, and this guitar can grow with you, meaning you could say that you played maybe 3 years and you think, oh, maybe it's time to change the pickup, upgrade some of the hardware or something else, that this is a great modding platform also because the bass things are there, to make changes, so you don't have to do too much or whatever you would call it. So that's really a very nice thing. So again, if you are looking for a beginner guitar, I would say paying that extra money is absolutely worth it. And in my case, why I bought it is that if you are looking, say you want a Les Paul style guitar, but you don't want to spend the 500, 600, 700 for an Epiphone, or maybe more for a Gibson. Okay, this here is again a more modern style of a Les Paul in terms of for hard rock, heavy metal playing. It is, I would say, this is worth looking at if you want say I want my first Les Paul because I've been playing Strats or Super Strats or whatever guitar you may have. Say I want but I don't want to pay that. This is absolutely worth looking at here. Again, I can only speak to the Harley Benton and this model here, but I will assume with other guitars in the same price point as this one, that you are getting roughly the same quality if you're looking at some of their other single cuts or maybe even tellies, so that you hopefully are getting similar quality, that it doesn't vary too much. So I can only say that this is really have been worth the money in the end. And yeah, this is can only, with my experience of someone who has had this guitar for a year, say that yes, this is a good purchase. So if you're so that's my general review of this guitar. We're gonna jump out now to some close-up shots of this guitar. I'll also show you the front and the back. I'll also pop the cover so you can see a little bit of the electronics, how everything is wired. And then I'm gonna do my typical demonstration of clean and dirty tones. I think I'm decide to do a with my mic'd up amp, and I hope to see you in that section. And for the close-ups, as you can see, the beautiful matte black finish. The knobs, again, 2 volume and 1 tone, as you can hear. Finely split, and they feel, in terms of quality when you use them, very sturdy. Nothing feels cheap here in terms of all the hardware in terms of the metal feels like decent grade, again because it is Wilkinson hardware. The pickups, I didn't mention that before. The freeway switch feels a bit cheap in terms of when you use it. It doesn't feel as sturdy as it could be, but it hasn't caused me any problems. I've been very heavy with it, doing the typical on-off thing and then doing the wiggle so you get that funny effect. And then, of course, the fretwork, as you can see in my and also the nut, everything is cut relatively nice. There are no scratches or funny things anywhere. And the inlays also look very nice, the typical Gibson style inlays. And the headstock with the very nice binding looks also really nice. And now for the back shots, as they say. As you can see, here's the control cavity. You can see no name branded parts, nothing spectacular, but very general. The soldering is quite nice. Again, this price point plus The cavity has been shielded with shielding paint. There's even on the cover. Same thing here. And as you can see, this looks also quite nice. There's nothing really to, I would say, to scoff at. Again, the price point, I know I'm repeating myself again and again, but again, the price point, again, 30 years ago, you wouldn't see that kind of quality work on an instrument like this in that price point. So this is really nice. As you can see, the back of the neck is a bit more shiny. Yeah, you can see I've worn it a bit down because originally it was a bit more matte. And here are the tuners, as you can see, Harley Benton branded. The CS custom line. And as you can see, I hope you can, made in Indonesia. And you can see it has a nice veloute just to keep the stability around the neck joint. So again, a guitar in general with all the modern features, you have the cut here for the upper 8 fragment, and then the tummy cut. Also, again, all the things you want in a modern version, if you're looking for that in a Les Paul style guitar. So now we are in the demonstration section. I moved around a bit, doing this in the living room with my dog here. For those who do wonder what this is a statue of a Shapai, which is one of those Chinese dogs that have all those, that extra skin that makes them very, very special. We had a dog like that for about 8 years. So this is a reminder of him. So I'm going to demonstrate some clean tones for you now. I have my amp mic'd up with my MS57, going to my audio interface, into my DAW. In the effects loop, again, some reverb from a pedal, some chorus, and some delay. So let's start on the bridge pickup, and this is how it is. A little bit of that Rush Alec chords, as they call them. So let's switch to the middle position, both pickups together, and you get this here. And as you can hear, things picking up a little bit. Not as bright. And now we go to the neck position. So let me just show you how it sounds when you roll the tone completely off. So I'll do the same again just to show you how it sounds on the bridge pickup. You can hear that this hollows it out, and it sounds quite nice actually. For pickups like that, I didn't expect much in the end, but I've been pleasantly surprised about the relative clarity of those pickups. And again, again, this guitar is again a modern Gibson, so those are geared towards more heavier sounds, but it's still, I think, again, in the price point we are talking, isn't bad for what they are. It can handle a variety of things, and it still sounds quite nice, I think, at least. So let's just, for fun, flip the switch or tap or whatever you would call it. We are going to split the pickup, and we are now on again, we are staying on the bridge position, and this is how it sounds. And you can hear that it fins up the sound a little bit. Doesn't have that much body to it anymore. Again, typical single coil sound as you would expect on a bridge position. So let's go directly to the split, to both pickups split, and this is how it sounds now. Not bad either there. So let's see, when we go to the neck position, do we get that really more steadier tone? Right, so let's try a little bit of this. And you can hear there's a little, it gets a little bit of that character. It isn't as pronounced, but again, with when you coil split, it varies how much it goes in. Of course, it again, the pickups play a role here in a sense, how much this gives their characteristics. But it does the job again. So if you are in a pickle and you need a single coil sound, I think this can do the job for you in the end in terms of getting that single coily thing on clean. So I'm going to now jump over to distorted tones and see how that sounds. And now for the more dirtier tones, I've taken the chorus off now, and I've turned on the gain on my heavy Empress. This first channel, we call it the heavy channel in the end, and this is how things sound. As you can hear, there's gain on it now, and we are on the bridge position. And now when we go to both pickups, we get this sound. Things darken up a little bit, and then when you switch to the neck position, you get, of course, and that's basic of that. Let's just try for fun. Split the coils again to see how much of a change this does. You can hear it's subtle now with all that gain on. Again, we go to the middle position. And finally for the bridge. A little more, I think it's more pronounced. Oh, it's very, you can hear slight, I think, with my ears again, a slight change in volume, tonally. It's not subtle. Again, we are distorting again. Much distortion removes many of those characteristics from pickups and so forth. But yeah, that's. Let me just turn those off. And that's that for the demonstration of the heavy tones. I'm just going to quickly do another one with a different type of gain, overdrive. I want to show you how it sounds when you go for a more Stevie Ray Vaughan-like setup, again, because I have a Fender amp, and just to show you how it sounds like. So I just quickly switched it up, turned off the Empress, just turned off my TA screen, the Demo FX clone of the TS808 pedal from Ibanez. That is completely cranked. The level is up. Gain or drive is roughly around 3 o'clock. And tone is about 2 o'clock, between 1 and 2. And I'm just going to show you on the neck pickup and splitting the coils to see how much you can get a Stevie Ray tone, just to see how close we can get when we crank it, everything. And that's that. You get quite there. So with the right, let's say the right tools, you can get a stratty type of sound out of it when you split the coils. It's just a really good guitar at the end. Resale value, you can of course say, okay, it's Harley Benton. You're not getting that much from it. I'm sure if I were to sell this now, I don't think I would be able to get 200 for it, maybe. Simply because of the brand name. Which is fine. That's how it is. I hope this review has been a little bit helpful. If you are looking for a budget guitar at the end that you might give Harley Benton, or especially if you are in the market for a Les Paul style, give the single cut guitars a look. And I think that's all for today. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye for now.